Welcome to our new episode. Before we begin, and as summer is closing in fast, we would like to ask all of you friends of our show to vote on a little poll we placed on our channel. Tell us what part of our show you enjoy the most, as we will be making a new version, 3.0, come fall, for all of you, and we would like to know. With that out of the way, let's look into this week's content, and we begin with the new retro games reviews and Babyman vs Terminatots, a fun arcade shooter for the ZX Spectrum, followed by Jungle Joe, an incredible puzzle platformer for the Commodore Plus 4 system. We close our new retro reviews with the amazing Black Castle 2 for the classic Game Boy console. Our hardware review seems to have found the ultimate retro gaming handheld on the face of the Retroid Pocket Flip 2 in all its flip glory. Our DOS Vault reveals the unbelievably cool remake of the classic ZX Spectrum game Jetpac, and we also remember the unforgettable cyberpunk RPG adventure System Shock. In our retro adventures, we review the terrifying and at the same time funny point-and-click adventure game Upstairs, and in our retrospect, we remember the unique and crazy Companions of Xanth. Finally, our show concludes for this week with our history lesson that looks back to one of the unluckiest consoles of all time, the Atari 7800 ProSystem. We hope you'll have fun with our show. Welcome to this week's new retro games reviews, and we begin with Babyman vs Terminatots, Part 2. Now this is an arcade action shooter for the ZX Spectrum machines. It's by Puddycut, and the scenario is a bit wacky. You are Babyman, a pin-sized hero, as the site called him, and you face against the Terminatots sent by the futuristic man-baby Professor D. Hyper. Well, crazy script aside, this is a very fun and classic arcade game for the ZX Spectrum. You control the titular hero Babyman, and you try to shoot out all the Terminatots off the screen. Some of them die more easily, others lose their skin like the original Terminator, and they become a cyborg-like creature, and you have to shoot them yet again. There are also flying machines and other mutants that will try to kill you. The controls of the game are fairly simple. All you have to do is run around, try to avoid getting fired at, and shoot the enemies. Once its screen is clear of enemies, you can move on to the next by choosing most of the times one of the 3 or 4 directions that you can take. The graphics of the game are very well made, with a lot of fun and particularly comic animations. The controls of the game are very good. You can move your character in almost any direction whilst shooting. There is no continuous music in-game, but in between stages. There are small tunes that are very well made. The sound effects are what you'd expect from a typical ZX Spectrum game. Now on to the rankings, and the graphics receive an 8.9. The controls of the game receive a 9. The music and sound effects receive a 7. And the gameplay an 8.9 for a total of 8.5. Babyman vs. Terminatots Part 2 is a very fun, if a little simplistic, arcade shooter that will offer you plenty of good and fun times of shooting and action on your ZX Spectrum. Just don't expect a deep and complicated gameplay, and you will have a pretty good fun with this particular game. Our second review this week is for Commodore Plus 4. Not that often we get to review games for that platform. The name of the game is Jungle Joe by 220 Volt Team, or 220V, with additional code by TRP, graphics by Omega, and music by Xabo. Now this is a puzzle platformer, and are very good at that. You get to explore a jungle as Jungle Joe and try to collect all the golden idols in its stage. Now, its stage may be a few screens long. You get to complete each screen by collecting sticks, with which you can create bridges or ladders in order to reach special areas or go higher, trying to collect the aforementioned idol, avoid enemies or kill them, and in the end, if you have collected all the idols and activated a special switch, the exit is open and you can move on to the next stage. Sounds simple, but trust me when I say it's not. Each stage and each screen is a series of puzzles on how to approach the exit and how to use the limited amount of sticks that you have available. All of the stages of the game are very smartly designed, and you will need to study its stage before you start playing, or you will find yourself resetting the stage time and time again until you figure it out, or you run out of lives. The graphics of the game are very well made, considering this is Plus 4. The animation also is pretty good. There is a very good musical theme and very good special effects. The controls of the game are simple. Sometimes your character seems to slide a bit instead of moving continuously, but that's something that you can get used to. Now, the rankings of the game are as follows. The graphics receive a 9. The controls, an 8.9. The music and sound effects, an 8.9 as well. And the gameplay, a 9.2. For a total of 9. This is one of the best games for the Commodore Plus 4 platform. Jungle Joe is a game that's really worth your time, and you will get addicted to it in no time. Believe us when we say it's worth a playthrough. You won't regret it. Now it would seem that this week we have a lot of reviews for special platforms. This is Black Castle 2 for the original Game Boy. You play as Knight Eric, and your sister has been kidnapped by your old nemesis Malakar, who has been revived and now tries to plunge the world into darkness. This is a classic platformer for the Game Boy, but I have to say that this game has been made so wonderfully and so carefully crafted that, well, I find it hard to believe that it's a homebrew game. The graphics of the game are some of the best graphics you can see in the original Game Boy, with wonderful characters with detailed animation. The controls are spot on and your character is extremely responsive. There's a variety of enemies, a variety of weapons and upgrades for your knight, and also a great variety of stages to go through. There are boss fights, traps, everything you would expect. I would say that this is a blend of a game between Castlevania and Ghosts and Goblins. There is also a wonderful music, wonderful sound effects. I find it very hard to find anything wrong with this game. This is definitely one of the best games I've ever played on the original Game Boy, including Nintendo's productions. Now, let's see the rankings, with the graphics receiving a 9.3, the controls a 9.4, the music and sound effects a 9.1, and the gameplay a 9.5, for a total of 9.3, and, as expected, the title of the Game of the Week. Black Castle 2 is a wonderful game that's gonna get you hooked in no time with its beautiful graphics and animation, the easy-to-use and handle controls that are spot on with perfect collision detection and fair gameplay. It is a bit of a tough game, but you know, that is the classic retro feeling that we learn to expect. This is a wonderful game, and if you really want to enjoy one of the best platform games on the Game Boy, I definitely recommend you give it a go. You will not be disappointed. Welcome to this week's hardware review. This is a review I've been waiting for quite some time. This is the Retroid Pocket Flip 2, and it's been suggested to me as the absolute handheld pocket retro console. Because, in case you didn't know, the absolute handheld console for me is, and I think will be for quite a few years more, Steam Deck, which I consider the absolute platform. Now, Retroid Pocket is, well, it ended up for me being a smaller version of a Steam Deck because it has a unique characteristic, one that sets it apart from the rest of the competition. Now, I have opened, prepared, and played the hell out of this one. So I'm just, doing this for show. This is a reference card that you will find opening up the handheld in there. It's a very beautiful design on one side. On the other, it's the technical specifications of the device, along with a reference card for all the functions of the buttons. The console has a touchscreen, of very high quality touchscreen, and it contains a number of processors in here. It comes out in two models, the SD865 and the D1100. Now, I suggest you get this one for that unique characteristic that we talked about. It comes with 8 GB of DDR4 RAM, a GPU Adreno 650, a storage of 128 GB. The screen is 5.5 inch. It's an AMOLED 1080p with a maximum of 60 frames per second. It has active cooling in here. It's a bit noisy when it works full time. I don't mind. I don't find it annoying. There's a lot of people that gets annoyed by that, but because my job is such, I have pretty powerful laptops to work with, and the noise that makes is nothing for me, but some people do get annoyed. It's a 5000 milliampere battery. It has Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.1. Now let's open it up. As you can see, it has a very beautiful and elegant design. It's not too big, it's not too small. It fits perfectly in my hands. It's ergonomical. 2 analog sticks, a digital pad, YXBA, the classic buttons, select start, power and home buttons. Here we have a multifunction USB-C that you can use to charge the console, to transfer your data, your backup ROMs, or to connect it to a TV or monitor. All you need is an adapter such as this. It's a USB-C to HDMI. It's pretty cheap and easy to come by, and it gives a very crisp and wonderful image. There is also headphones out, and this is the SD card input. That's the volume up and volume down buttons and the triggers. There's also another heat exhaust here. This is a plastic console, of course, but it is very, very well built. You can feel the quality the moment you take it in your hands. And I found the lock on of the screen here to be quite safe and not scary, you know, feeling like it's gonna fall apart or something. That happens with some flip consoles. Now, the unique characteristic I was talking about. This console, because of the multiprocessor installation, it has the ability to boot either on Android, more specifically Android version 13, or a community-based, a community-made Linux version of Rocknix. So you can have the best of both worlds. You can have all the modern applications of the Android, and you can spare yourself the pain of setting up its emulators separately, as we usually do in Android, with some of them refusing to work, no matter the cores or the BIOSes or whatever you might have, just because Android is, well, it has its own problems on those areas. And you can use it as a multimedia device, play modern games on Android platform, and when you really want a good retro experience, you can switch to the Linux OS. And how do you do that? Well, the one operating system does not interfere with the other, and you do not need to create a permanent dual boot. You get to install Rocknix Linux on the SD card of this console, and when you boot up, you get to hold the Volume Plus button to get you into a menu that you will have the option, amongst others, and you should be careful there, we'll show you that one later, to permanently boot on the Linux or permanently boot on the Android. Of course, permanently means with no further interference. You can always switch back to the one or the other. There is a better option too, and that's the one I prefer, holding down the minus button. If you have the SD card with the Rocknix operating system in here, you get to a different menu that will allow you to boot for that time on the Linux. Use it, play your games, and once you reset, if you do nothing, the system will boot up back to Android. This is definitely the best of both worlds. Now, it sounds amazing, and it quite much is, and let's go see it in action and come back to sum it up. Okay, here we go, and we are booting up our Retroid Pocket Flip 2. We're gonna start by booting up on the Android first, just to show you what's what. Alright, we're waiting for the image output. Here we go. Retroid Pocket. Now, as you can see, I haven't pretty much installed anything because I know it's pointless. Okay, now It's pretty much as you can see, an Android. A classic, typical Android. It comes with various pre-installed software. Now, of course, if you want the best of a retro platform, I have tried to install some systems here. It did not go that well. It's overly complicated sometimes, and most of them do not work that well with the cores and all that stuff. So what to do? Let's see. There is the solution we talked about earlier. Let's go and boot up now the system to the Rocknick Linux. Pushing that. Here we start the process. I'm holding down the plus button. Now you can't see it. Actually, let's do this. I will show you exactly what I see. This is the recovery menu, as you can see. You can move with minus and plus. There are various functions, but what you need here is the start, the restart bootloader, emergency mode, and this switch boot mode. Now, if you choose this, you can permanently boot up to Android, but this is not the one we want. Now, by holding down the minus button, this is the one we want. And give it a second. And voila. Now this is Rocknick's. As you can see, I have installed all the ROM backups here and they work perfectly. Let's start with something a bit heavier than the standard ones. Okay. Well, Valis is a good game. As you can see, works like a charm. Now the sound you hear is from the console. You can always connect through Bluetooth and the headphone output. Speakers, woofers, subwoofer. Excellent. You have access by pushing down both analog sticks to the RetroArch behind it with all the menu options. Let's try another game. Let's try something, yeah, like I told you, everything is here. Something heavier. Yes. Yes, MDK on the PlayStation. I was always worried that I'm gonna scratch my disc when I played this, but very few systems have the power to run it in order for me to use the backup, so here we go. As you can see, it runs perfectly. Let's see some more of it. Yes. Now, everything works smoothly, and if you want to go back, okay, let me show you some in-game so you can see a bit of the power of this handheld. It's not just that it runs the game, but how fast it runs the game. As you can see, it's like it's running natively. Now, high resolution. You can run any of these games. All you have to do if you want to go back to the Android is just, well, restart the system. And that's it. Now, there's not much left to say about this. The people who suggested that I review this console, and including the friend who sent me the console, they were right. They were just right. This is now my favorite retro console to carry around wherever I go. When I'm home, yes, I still prefer the Steam Deck for the power and the large screen. But to be honest, it's always plugged in, the power socket. Retroid Flip 2 is a powerful, amazing, easy to use, best of both worlds, as we said, console with Android and Linux functions, a very good battery, very ergonomic to use, beautiful design. I forgot to mention here that it comes in 4 colors. I don't know if it's visible here. It's you can use the let me just zoom in a bit so you can see it. And now I'm zooming out. That's funny. All right. Now it comes with you can choose a black, a purple, the cyan color, which is my favorite, the one I got here, and a silver or gray, depending on your opinion. It's a very, very pretty console. Very sturdy, very well designed, and the multi-operating system function, especially considering the fact that you don't have to format the system and choose one. You can have both of them at the same time. Definitely defines this as the best pocket handheld for your retro gaming ever, so far, in the market at least. It's definitely a thumbs up from us, 10 out of 10. And we'll see you again next week. Thank you for watching. Let's start this week's DOS Vault, and let's begin with Jetpac, a remake, an incredible remake for Windows. Now, this is made by Langford Productions, and it's simply stunning. The gameplay of the original Ultimate Play the Game version is intact here, but the game has been upgraded with wonderful modern graphics that will have you drooling over them. The controls are, well, the controls you know from the classic game. You do have the option to switch to the classic version with the graphics of ZX Spectrum in all their glory. The game has been enhanced by a number of factors, including some difficulty choices that you may add. You can have randomly rearranged platforms, new rocket builds. You can have the option for the fuel packs to be volatile, so if you shoot them accidentally, you lose them. And also you can switch the enemies from the classic enemies that the game is going to display by default into some characters from classic games of the era, such as Cookie and or Psst. I don't know how to pronounce this. Alright, Now, the graphics are very beautiful, they are very well made, and although they are modernized with new animation and wonderful colors, of course, they do retain that cartoonish classic character of the original Jetpac. The music and sound effects are also quite good, and they offer a lot to the action. The gameplay may be on the simple side as it was on the original, but don't let that fool you. The game is still a challenging affair. The controls are with a joystick, a joypad, or the keyboard, and they are quite simple. Pick up the fuel, pick up some bonuses, send the fuel to your rocket, or assemble the rocket if you're just starting the round, and well, off you go. Now, on to the rankings, and the graphics receive a 9.2. The controls of the game, a 9.1. The music and sound effects, a 9. And the gameplay, a 9.3. For a well-deserved 9.2. Even with a fresh coat of paint and all these great new ideas, Jetpac is still the classic game we all love from the ZX Speccy golden era. This is a wonderful remake that pays respect to the classic game whilst bringing new elements to the gameplay that can only make it better. Don't miss the chance to play it. In our DOS Vault retrospect today, we have one game that is considered by many to be royalty amongst video games of the classic DOS era. This is System Shock by Looking Glass Technologies and published by Origin Systems. System Shock is a 1994 first-person action-adventure and RPG video game. You play as an unnamed hacker who's caught in the act while trying to access files illegally of the servers of Citadel Station, a huge space station that's in orbit around Earth. Now the Citadel Station's manager is offering you a deal. He can drop all charges if you hack the AI of the station and remove some safeties. Not only that, but if you work with him and do as he wills, he will install some very special cybernetic implants to you. The deal goes through, and when you wake up, well, everything seems to have gone to hell. Very few people are still alive in the station, and it seems that the station's AI, the homicidal Shodan, has taken over the station, mutating the crew, turning them into cyborg killers, and controlling all the other security systems. Now, the game is considered a classic nowadays and has introduced many mechanisms later used by a number of games. It was also one of the first games to display a version of cyberspace, as you can hook up to special terminals and try to harass, beat, or overcome the forces of Shodan through the use of cyberspace. The graphics of the game for the time were very good, and the game supported a high resolution. There is full speeds in many areas, and the user interface is quite intuitive, even though a bit overly complicated, especially for games back in those days. It was also one of the few areas that System Shock was heavily criticized. But the game, beyond that, was praised by all critics as a unique gem, and trust us, if you haven't played it, It is exactly that. Unfortunately, a lot of people did not appreciate System Shock back in its day, resulting in very low sales and Looking Glass losing money. And a sequel, even though it happened a few years later and it was even better than the original, ultimately Looking Glass Studios shut its door a couple of years later. Now, let's see the rankings of System Shock, and the graphics of the game receive a 9.3. The controls of the game, an 8.8. The music and sound effects, a 9.2. And the amazing gameplay, a 9.6. For a total of 9.2. System Shock is a unique gem of an era long gone. It's full of new ideas, well, new for those days, and it reinvented the category of action-adventure RPGs, especially in the first-person mode. It has a wonderful scenario, one of the most famous video game villains of all time, and will have you hooked with its gameplay in no time. If you didn't have the chance to play it back in the day, definitely visit the game now, and if you can't have access to the classic, there is a remake out that is also quite amazing. Either way, System Shock is one of the best games ever to grace the PC and MS-DOS platform. Welcome to this week's Retro Adventures. We begin our review with Upstairs by Jaime Herrero. This is a game for Windows. It's an adventure game, point and click, with graphics designed with pixel art. Now, it's a, let's say, horror story, a creepy horror story, but with a weird sense of humor along with it. You play as an unnamed kid, and you have been trapped for the past 5 years to a cage by some obviously demented lady. After so long, you find a chance to escape, and the adventure begins. We won't speak about the scenario anymore as to not ruin it. Now, for those of you who prefer to try a game before you buy, there is a demo version out, so you can give it a go. The graphics are wonderfully created, and they fit the atmosphere perfectly, even if they are on the cute side. The music and sound effects also perfectly fit the game, and they are created very carefully, and with a special talent, I must say, for the atmosphere of the music. Now, the user interface is the classic point and click, and actually it's a bit more simplified than we're used to. There is only 4 verbs to use, and by using right click you don't even have to use them, as the whole process becomes automated. The puzzles of the game are pretty smart and on the rational side, and I didn't find any of them to be too quirky or too unreasonable. As long as you observe your surrounding environments and search carefully for clues, you will always be able to overcome any obstacle the game throws at you. Now, on to the rankings of the game, and the graphics receive a 9.1. The puzzles of the game, a 9.2. The music and sound effects, a 9. And controls and gameplay, a 9 as well. For a total of 9.1. Upstairs is a wonderful, creepy, funny, and well-made adventure game. If you're on the lookout for your next point-and-click adventure, we definitely suggest you give Upstairs a go. It will not let you down. Our Retrospect adventure game today is one from the classic company Legend Entertainment, one of the best creators of adventure games during the MS-DOS period. This is Companions of Xanth. The game is based on Pierre Antoine's Xanth novels, and it follows the plot, albeit a bit loosely, of one of the novels in the series Xanth. You play Doug, a young man who uses a computer game to enter and explore the world of Xanth. Now, the world of Xanth is a peninsula where magic is real, and in order to use it, you must believe in it. Now, the game, even though it doesn't look like it from the first sight, is actually a comedy game. There are many crazy puns, and the dialogue is way out there, as it combines humorous situations, witty dialogues, and classic slapstick comedy sometimes, with a wonderfully crafted fantasy world. The user interface is Legend's all-time favorite, with the screen divided into practically three areas. On your left, you have the directional buttons and some functions like save, load, and wait, and some verbs that you can use, although in this new improved version of the interface, all you have to do is right-click on the right object, and the verb is chosen automatically, or double-click sometimes in order to use it. On the bottom of the screen is your inventory, and at the center and upper right corner of the screen, taking up most of the area, is your view of the world. Now, when you talk to some of the characters, the screen changes into a special dialogue screen with you having to choose one of the proper answers. Also, at some points in the game, full screen motion video takes over, the famous cutscenes as we used to call them, in order to advance the story or introduce some new characters.
Hello, screen.
The game is funny, smart, and witty, but sometimes it's too witty for its own good. Some of the puzzles back in the day were found to be a bit uneven or irrational by some reviewers, and it was that caused some of the reviews to be not so favorable. Now, in truth, some of them are a bit crazy, or at least don't provide enough clues on how to approach and solve them. But beyond that, the rest of the puzzles are just, well, a little crazy, but obvious. The graphics of the game are excellent, with hand-drawn graphics, sometimes combined with digital actors. Now, the music and sound effects is also of very, very high quality, and there is full speech for almost all the characters of the game.
What's your name?
On to the rankings now, and the graphics of the game receive a 9.3. The puzzles of the game, a 7. The music and sound effects of the game, a 9. And the controls and gameplay, an 8.9, for a total of 8.6. Companions of Xanth is one of the most ambiguous, let's say, adventure games by Legend Entertainment. A lot of people found it smart, witty, and funny, but some find it difficult to get sucked into its world or understand its puzzles. Any way you look at it, we believe it's a game that's worth revisiting today, and, well, decide for yourself. Not all heroes grab a place in history books because they've won, but some of them earn their place just for a good fight. Today we're talking about one of them. This is the story of the Atari 7800, the heir to a lost throne. Back in early 1983, Atari was still riding high on the success of the Atari VCS, or 2600 as it is more well known. Nothing seemed to foretell of the coming storm that would come later the same year. Atari had started showing dents in their armor, as the much publicized heir to the Atari 2600 throne, the Atari 5200 Super System, hadn't just failed to succeed the aging console as it was intended. It was crushed by the competing Intellivision and ColecoVision consoles, for no small reason than the inability to play 2600 games, the horrible controllers, and a minimum hardware upgrade that failed to show any true next-gen signs. Atari was quick to return to the drawing board, and this time it assigned an external partner to design the next-gen console of the company. The much sought-after contract was given to a small but innovative American company named General Computer Corporation, or just simply GCC Technologies. Found in the early 80s by Doug McRae, Kevin Curran, and John Telco, GCC was known to Atari for the Mrs. Pac-Man incident, when they created a mod for the original Pac-Man arcade game that introduced random ghost behavior and many visual improvements that reinvigorated interest in the Pac-Man game and resulted in Midway hiring the trio to work for them instead of suing them for copyright infringement. Boosted by that, the trio founded GCC Technologies to further explore the tech industry and work on new projects. The Atari 7800, when originally designed for Atari in early 1983 as the Atari 3600, was a make-or-break project. Atari 5200 had tarnished the Atari good name, and the Atari 400-800 computers family was losing ground fast to the popular Commodore 64 and the British invasion of home micros with the likes of ZX Spectrum in Europe. The new console had to show that Atari was still the pioneer of the industry and that it held the position firmly. The system had the Atari Sally as its CPU, a custom variant of the 6502 found on the VIC-20 and Atari home computers, running at 1.79 MHz. It came with 4 KB of dedicated RAM and a total of 4 plus 16K ROM for BIOS purposes, and 48 KB general-purpose space without bank switching. It also included an enhanced and much improved Maria graphics custom chipset running at 7.16 MHz with supported resolutions ranging from 160 to 240 to 320 to 240 with 25 colors on screen for the smaller resolutions and 9 for the highest, from a palette of 256 colors in total. The system supported hardware sprites, and even though it came with a classic TIA chipset found in the original Atari VCS, A motherboard modification allowed for games to include a Poké sound chip on the cartridge for much improved sound that could support up to two 16-bit channels on 64 kHz. One of the most impressive characteristics of the console, though, was the total and absolute backwards compatibility with Atari's 2600 vast library of games, making the 7800 ProSystem the first console with such functionality. Mid-1983 all seemed set, and Atari started teasing the Atari 7800's many advancements until disaster strike. By June 1983, the video game industry imploded on itself, with billions of dollars lost and hundreds of thousands of jobs lost. The video game industry crash had begun, and it seemed that it would swallow the entire industry along with it. The media grabbed the ball and ran, demonizing the video games as a fad that led to a huge financial disaster for the US economy, and this created a hostile environment for anything video game related. Warner Bros., owners of the Atari Corporation, was bleeding money fast and started looking for a way to get rid of the burden. All projects, including the 7800, were placed on hold until the dust settled. Eventually, in May 1984, after some distance from the crash was kept, the 7800 was introduced to the public and released in small quantities but not nationwide. The small launch was mostly ignored, and Atari did not push the matter further, shelving the console for the time being. Come July of the same year, and Warner, much to their relief, found a buyer for the company. Jack Tramiel, the founder of Commodore, was ousted from his own company earlier that year as a result of his fixation with a price war that, even though solidified the Commodore 64 and VIC-20 machines as kings of the American computer industry, had also created a hostile environment and brought to the ground a number of competing companies with methods that were considered too extreme by the board of directors. Bitter and hell-bent on revenge against his old company, Jack took his hefty compensation amount and bought out Atari Consumer Electronics and Home Computers division from Warner Bros. For the amount of $240 million. The Atari Coin-Op division was held back by Warner Bros. As the arcade business was still pretty much a healthy and profitable area, and the Atari name was highly regarded there. Jack's first orders of the day was a massive let-go of a sizable number of employees to cut down costs, a focus on a repackaged Atari 2600, renamed as 2600 Junior, in order to boost the company with a steady, no matter how small, income of cash, and the halt of all pending projects, including 7800, in order to focus on his next big computer system that would place Rebirth Atari under him on the map as a major player again. But here was the small matter of GCC's fee. The deal was that as soon as the Atari 7800 was released to the public, GCC would receive their fee for designing the console. The May 1984 minor launch, no matter how small, was a launch of the console nonetheless, so someone had to pay GCC Technologies for their work. Warner said that Jack, by buying the company, also bought the debts. Jack said that this outstanding payment was hidden from him, so it was Warner's responsibility to pay GCC. And GCC of course said, "I don't care, you guys, just pay us." In the end, Jack relented and paid the outstanding fee. Whilst the company was being reorganized and Jack's brainiacs were working on the top-secret project that came to become Atari 520 ST, the 7800 console was still sitting on the warehouses waiting for the limelight. By the time Jack decided to bring the 7800 to the world, the market was a whole different place. The video games industry was reinvigorated by Nintendo, with the introduction of the Nintendo Entertainment System, also known, of course, as NES. In the 1 year between its introduction and establishment of the market, it had become more than a household name. Americans seemed to play, breathe, dress, and eat anything with Nintendo printed on it. Video games were no longer considered a fad, but a part of the new age that came with the 80s. There was also a newcomer in the market, complicating things, as Sega had taken the position of the also-ran that Atari was aiming for starters. For Jack, that was the perfect time for Atari to make a comeback as a console manufacturer and remind everyone who the actual king is. Besides, the name Atari had regained much of its glory thanks to the massive success of the newly introduced Atari 520 ST computer that brought with it the 16-bit era. Everyone was talking about the most spectacular company's fate turnaround in the history of the markets. Surely people would run to buy a new Atari console too. If only it was that simple. The Atari 7800 ProSystem was reintroduced to the market in May 1986 for the bargain price of $79.95. Right from the start, the only thing that seemed properly planned was the price. The console was packed in with games that would seem like surefire hits back in 1984. That was the originally intended launch date. But for 1986, a game like Pole Position 2, for instance, seemed vastly outdated. The advertising budget, too, was the lowest possible, as Atari, even though now a success story, was still amassing fortunes and recovering from its previous poor state. In contrast, Nintendo spent $16 million annually for the NES promotion, and even Sega spent $9 million for the Master System. A series of peripherals was shown to the public with the well-known "coming soon" bait, such as the 7800 keyboard, a light gun, and a high-score cartridge, amongst others. From these, only the light gun was ever introduced. It wasn't all bad though for the 7800. The system ticked all the boxes that the original design had to. It was smaller than the ridiculously huge 5200 and with a sleeker, cost-efficient design. It had the aforementioned 100% backwards compatibility, and both the American version's joystick controllers and the European gamepad styled were quite good, and a massive improvement over the mitigated catastrophe that was the 5200's joystick. Some also argue, and it is partially true, that the system was in fact way more advanced than the NES and easier to program for. The game library, as time passed by, improved too. Seeing Nintendo had pretty much locked in exclusivity most of the popular video game console developers with golden shackles, with their strict contract rules, and the rest being grabbed by Sega, Atari had their work initially cut out for them. To rectify this, Atari looked to its sister arcade division that, even though it was owned by Warner still, collaborated closely mostly with Jack's Atari, allowing them to grab all the arcade Atari hits. Jack also dipped in the expanding home computer games market, bringing hits like Impossible Mission, Commando, and Ikari Warriors to the console, amongst others. All the console stock that was sitting in Atari's warehouses was sold by February 1987 and then some, and brought the total sales to 100,000 units. By 1988, this number would rise to 1 million units, surprising even Atari. It would seem that Europe in particular was more friendly to the console, since Nintendo's presence there was almost non-existent at the time, with only Sega as an opponent. Of course, the home computer dominance in Europe could not allow for the crazy sales of the American soil, but it was still a solid source of income. As the 80s drew to a close, the aging 7800 started to show signs of fatigue. Atari's focus would shift to the Atari Lynx, the company's first foray into the handheld market, with the rest of the resources diverted to the new war that Jack began with his old company, the famous Atari vs. Amiga war. The Atari 7800 was discontinued in the US on January 1st, 1992. In Europe, though, as it enjoyed a much better success, it kept on, being sold for as late as the summer of 1995. In total, 3.77 million consoles were sold, falling far behind NES's 61.91 million and Master System's 13 million, but it still brought to Atari's coffers a hefty amount of $97 million profits during a period where Atari needed cash badly, making it a worthy addition for the company. The Atari 7800 ProSystem had all the marks of a winner. It was supposed to rectify all that was wrong with a failed 5200 console, and in truth, it didn't fail at that level. In fact, the console did not fail on anything, but it was rather the console's company that failed it. The 7800 was born to be heir to the most important throne of the industry, and because of its company's faults and delays to bring it to the public, it ended up a lost opportunity and one of tech history's biggest what could have been cases.